Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom. Nathan Drinker, I'm Jay Wise. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. As a reminder to all our listeners, our show is hosted on the Anchor app, but you can also find our content on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a handful of other locations. And if you're looking for our video format of the show, you can find us on our Drink of Wisdom YouTube channel. What's going on, Drink? How we doing, man?
Another day, another dollar, another beautiful Wednesday for us to get into some of this action that's going on in the wide world of sports. To be back in the lab and give the people what they want, what they need, and because we see what they don't and say what they want, and you know what time it is. So let's talk some sports, baby. Let's roll, baby.
All right, episode 55. The Sixers draw even with the Hawks. The Pacers fire their coach, and we react to the trade that sent Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans. But we are going to start with the Eastern Conference semifinals, one of those playoff series where the Brooklyn Nets have opened up a 2-0 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Nets won game one by 8 points, 115-107. And then on Monday night, they absolutely rolled over the Milwaukee Bucks, 125-86. Just a despicable performance by the Bucks on all accounts. But Drink, it's quite simple. You think this series is a done deal and it's over, or do you see a way Milwaukee can get back into it?
Nah, it's done. Hey, I like my steak medium well. I used to do it medium rare, but I wanted medium well because I want the fork to actually stick up and out of the steak. Because this one is over, folks. Listen, Milwaukee might get a game or two. I give them a game or two at best, but this is over. Listen, we was talking about this before the show. I personally don't think Milwaukee got one defender to slow down Kevin Durant. I'm looking at it, like I said, Drew, you made a point. Drew Holiday is too small. I think PJ Tucker is too slow. And listen, Giannis, they're expecting Giannis to carry the load on the offense and the defense, so you can't have him on Durant majority of the game. Probably in the late in the fourth quarter, something like that. But look, they in trouble. And you notice I'm only talking about KD. I ain't even got to Kyrie yet. I'm just talking about KD. I ain't even got to the Blake Griffins of the world and the Claxtons of the world and whatever the Joe Harrises of the world. I ain't even got to them yet. I'm just talking about KD. Just KD alone is like flipping this series on their head. Then you bring a motivated Kyrie that actually remembers that he's playing basketball and leave all the other stuff at home. Yo, Milwaukee is done. Listen, the series do get moved to Milwaukee here for game 3 and 4. So I could be totally wrong, but from what I've seen, all things tell me that this one should be over. Listen. The number one thing we had with Brooklyn, right, was they don't play defense. They got Steve Nash as a coach. They got D'Antoni as the number one assistant. They ain't gonna play no defense. They don't play defense. We don't know Durant for defense. We don't know Kyrie for defense. We know kind of James Harden in his later years for defense. But Blake Griffin wasn't a defensive monster. He just could jump high. So you tell yourself they're not gonna play defense. They're just gonna outscore people. Well, that is one way to lose. But what if they do play defense? Now what do you do? And that's the problem Milwaukee is in right now. When they do play defense and they bring that offense to the show, minus James Harden, what do you do? And we're seeing right now, Milwaukee out here flopping around, in my opinion. And what my eyes see, this is a mismatch at great proportion. And it looks like we got a high chance of a sweep, folks. If Milwaukee don't get it done in game 3, they're done in game 4. Because it's just, you can't tell me, oh, well, we're not going to bring the energy for our first game back against the Nets, in game 3, but we're going to bring it in game 4. Listen, if they don't win game 3, it's a wrap. It is a wrap. It's probably a sweeper-rooski. Bring the brooms out, gas up the jet. You know what time it is. We out of here. We'll be waiting on the win of Atlanta and Philadelphia. So I just listen. At the end of the day, man, I'm looking at this. They can't score. They can't score with Brooklyn. Brooklyn looking pretty good on the boards. I just mentioned the defense, and I'm looking at Milwaukee, man. All you got to do is stop Young. Like the Nets, legitimately, the Nets are just stopping Giannis from driving and making him either shoot over top of them or they foul him and make him make his free throws. And they seem to be having a problem. Drew Holiday on the back of a milk carton. Middleton, he's in and out. Brook Lopez, where you at? PJ Tucker, hey, you want to give us something? Bobby Portis, like, where are all these acquisitions that Milwaukee had got in the offseason or through a trade that was supposed to take them to the next level? They looking like the same Milwaukee team to me. Matter of fact, I can argue if they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, they got worse. Because like you just reminded me, 3 years ago, they was in the Eastern Conference Finals. And now that they scratching and clawing to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Look, Mike Budenholzer, he's fired if they get swept, he's definitely fired. If they lose in the gentleman sweep, I think he's fired. If they lose in 6, he's probably fired. And if they lose in 7, that'll be the only way they lose the series. And I might say, they might bring him back. If he loses in 7, then it's competitive. But if they get swept, he's out of here. 5, he's out of here. 6, he's out of here. I don't want to hear it. He's out of here. You know why? Because the other coach over there, all he's doing is holding the clipboard. He over there pulling the Jason Garrett. That's what he's doing. And you about to lose to a guy that don't even have to coach for real. Now, let that rack your brain. Mike Budenholzer been, named like one of the better coaches in the league. He's been around for a while. He's been successful. And you about to lose to a dude that's not even coaching, right? He's just like looking good on the sideline. Steve Nash, what's up, Steve? Hey, what's going on, man? So, listen, this is going to be devastating for the Bucks. Because if they lose, Mike Budenholzer out of the door, then what do you do with all these guys? Like, you just gave Drew Holiday a big payday. You're not getting rid of Giannis. Do you move Middleton at this point? Do anybody want Middleton at this point? You got PJ Tucker, you got Bobby Portis, you got what's his name, Brent Forbes. You got guys on the bench. What do you do with those guys? I'm just saying, man, they playing a dicey game. So with that said, to wrap it up, listen, this is over, baby, and I ain't playing. It's over. Brooklyn, they put their foot down. Enough's enough. I don't see how Milwaukee get back into this, but that's why I'm not the only one that talk on this piece. Jay, tell me what you got.
I couldn't disagree with you more. And I think this is, I think this is going to turn out to be one of the best segments in the history of this show thus far because of that. I totally understand where you're coming from, because if you're the mindset that you believe what we've seen in the first 2 games is going to turn out to be an accurate representation of this series, then I completely agree with you. This is over. However, I just can't, for the life of me, cannot believe that this is real, even though I know I've seen what has transpired in these first 2 games, particularly in that game 2, which was just a complete embarrassment. And I could not stomach it come the fourth quarter. 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, I was like, oh, this is feeling a bit nauseous. Got to be honest with you. But I mean, if you look at game 1, as soon as James Harden hurt his hamstring and goes to the locker room and they say, James Harden not coming back, I'm like, oh, there you go. I mean, Milwaukee, this should be like the break you've been looking for. Like, if you need any like excess motivation, they just lost their playmaker. The guy who goes out there and gets like 20 points and 11 assists and does all that. Now you have KD and Kyrie, and we love those guys, and we know how great they are. But now it's about to be ISO basketball, and But Milwaukee, first of all, you have to give Brooklyn a tremendous amount of credit, because they have played flawlessly through these first 2 games. They have defended well. They have shared the basketball well, and on the flip side, Milwaukee hasn't played particularly great defense, and their offense just they're falling back into some of the bad habits that we looked at last year. But I'm going to tell you, Milwaukee in game one, especially in that first half, they were in the game. There was a lot of things they can be pleased about. And game one by itself, you look back at game one, and what you had was Milwaukee did what they were supposed to on the boards. They dominated on the glass. They got a tremendous advantage on the inside, almost similar to what we talked about last year, not to the extreme degree, because Brooklyn hasn't downsized to the Houston Rockets level of small ball. But when you compare the Lakers to the Rockets from last year, that's kind of what I see in this series. There is no excuse for Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and PJ Tucker not to completely just obliterate this Brooklyn Net team on the inside. And if you take a look at game one, they did a fairly good job of that. They didn't completely dominate. They didn't dominate as much as they should, but you look back and you out-rebound the team by 11. You did your job in that respect. The problem was you look at the three-point line. Milwaukee shot 6 of 30, a hot 20%, and the Nets are over there 15 of 39. Well, you're minus 27, and that's why you lose. You lose by 8. We understand that. Game two, you didn't rebound. You mean to tell me that same group of guys who are going up against a team they've just given up on DeAndre Jordan? Sorry, man, you got to sit down. We'll go with Blake Griffin, your old. I just realized they back together from Lob City. I didn't even think of that. I don't even think of them like that anymore. But they back together. No, we'll go with Blake Griffin and Bruce Brown, and we'll just, we'll take our chances on the glass. We'll just go with these guys. And I think it's a tremendous disgrace. And we know Milwaukee missed. They were doing a whole lot of missing shots out there, and still they win the rebounding battle by 2. That's horrible. And they didn't get any better from the free throw line. So, the 3-point line. You improve from 6 of 30 to 8 for 27. Meanwhile, Brooklyn goes 21 for 42. So now what you have is Milwaukee in this series so far is shooting 14 for 57. That's about 25%. Brooklyn is 36 for 81, which equates to about 44%, I believe. So in this series, you are losing the 3-point battle by 66 points. The thing about it is Milwaukee for this season was a top 5. I believe they were a top 5 team shooting the 3 ball, but guys just haven't played well. And what did we say? Or what did I say? This series or the Bucks playoff success will be determined by their 2 and 3, Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton, whichever order you want to put into. And here's what you have. When you don't have James Harden playing, to me, Giannis is the best player in this series. He is the best player. Kevin Durant offensively might be the best player. But when you look at what these guys do on both sides, Giannis is the best player. KD and Kyrie, I think they're the second and third best players offensively. I can't argue with anything they do. But then you look after that. That is where the Milwaukee Bucks depth should be able to take over this series and get them back in it with Jrue Holiday, with Chris Middleton, and with Brook Lopez. I think, though, it's imperative as this series shifts to Milwaukee that those 3 guys, particularly your 2 backcourt guys, get their act together. Chris Middleton, for this series, is shooting 13 for 43. I'm not even going to get you a percentage, but we know it's bad. And he's 3 for 13 from downtown. In the first half of that ball game, he missed his first 8 shots. He didn't look like a guy that belonged in an NBA starting lineup, much less a guy who's made multiple all-star teams, I believe. It was embarrassing. He didn't look like he had a clue what he was doing. Jrue Holiday did a few things here and there, but he hasn't been good enough either. So Milwaukee, in the end, the biggest takeaway I have early on in this series is there is no way that this is the same team that just swept the defending Eastern Conference champions, the Miami Heat, in the first round. Those things just add up. So what I'm looking at is there's something mental amiss going on right now. You can't beat up the Miami Heat to that degree. It's not like the Heat all of a sudden are that bad. You can't beat up the defending Eastern Conference champions to that degree and then turn around and just play like this unless you must have like been satisfied. Oh, we got our revenge against the Eastern Conference champions. Oh, well, we can take our foot off the gas. What is that? Because there's no way you can look at these 2 teams and say Brooklyn is better by 40 points in a game.
Do you think it's possible that they're a little intimidated by Brooklyn? Because, Brooklyn has been considered a favorite like all year pretty much since they've been assembled.
I'll tell you,
even
tell you
before
what
James Harden showed up.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do see right now. They look to me right now a team that cannot deal with adversity. They look soft. When they come up, when a team punches them in the mouth early, they appear to be soft. That point I won't dispute with you. But in the end, there is no way, even though at the beginning of this series and all year we've kind of looked at Brooklyn and Philadelphia as the two teams in the East. Milwaukee's been right there step to step pretty much. But we've still kind of Philadelphia and Brooklyn's what we've been looking forward to all year. But Milwaukee has clearly been the third best team. They had a great first round that should have given them confidence moving forward. And now you look at them and they look like a shell of themselves. I am perplexed. I don't quite understand it. I'm going to tell you offensively this, and you remember what they did last year. They're doing it again. This whole thing where Giannis just brings the ball up and he just sits at the top of the key and nobody moves. And you have Blake Griffin, whoever's guarding him, just sits in the paint as if he's Rajon Rondo. That's not good offense. That automatically puts you at a disadvantage because it's like, oh, hey, Giannis, shoot the ball. And sometimes he will because there's got to be something mental going on there because the guy's 2 for 10 from the free throw line. That's got to be getting in his head because now you have a guy who, similarly to Ben Simmons, they make their money in the paint, dominating in the paint. And when you have, you're going to get hacked. You're going to have to go to the free throw line. And, he getting called for 10-second violations in one game, can't get the ball up in time. So that's another thing going on mental. But he's got to get that fixed. He's got to regain some confidence. And Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday have to get back in. They got to help him. Middleton especially. Middleton's got to be better. You can't come out and beat 0 for 8. But in the end, I'm going to tell you, this is not over to me. I think Milwaukee's going to bounce back in Game 3. They have no choice. But I'm going to say about Mike Budenholzer, he deserves some blame right now. But in Game 2, Mike Budenholzer is the furthest thing. Every guy that stepped on that floor for the Milwaukee Bucks, they should be looked at before Mike Budenholzer. That's not coaching. You lose by 40 points. That's not coaching. That's players just getting their rear ends kicked. That's what that is. But look, I think in the end, I disagree. Milwaukee's going to get back in this series. I don't think this is over by any stretch. And I think by the time game 5 rolls around, we're going to have a series that's not at 2 games apiece.
All right. So, hey, before you stop the tape, do you want to make a wager? Would you like to make a wager on this? This series is over.
I'm not. Okay.
This series is over.
So you're defining over. You're defining over. You're defining over by there's no way Milwaukee can win it, or you saying it's over? You saying you guarantee they're getting swept?
I guarantee you they're gonna lose in 5 at this point. I'm gonna give Milwaukee enough respect where they'll win a game. I'm not gonna be super disrespectful, but I think this is over in 5. They get 1 in Milwaukee. Brooklyn take care of the second game in Milwaukee, and then they go back to Brooklyn. Place going crazy. James Harden come out, and it's over with.
I honestly want to bet you, but no, I am not that confident. If you said they was going to get swept, I would take you on that. But since you went to 5, no, I'm not making that bet.